Hello and welcome to the Matt Black podcast. We're up to episode 11 and my guest today is Mr. Chris Knight. Hello, how are you doing?
Hello, sir. Thank you for the invite on, and it's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it?
It's been a long time. Yeah, I was trying to think on the way here, last time I saw you. It's got to be over 10 years.
Well, I had hair then, so...
You did, yeah. I didn't want to say anything. Yeah, I think it was a charity night, wasn't it?
Yeah, you were running like a big charity event and you had a lot of different acts on, all different... almost like a Royal Variety, but in Rotherham.
Yeah. Not quite the same feel.
But,
no, it turned out to be a good night, and I'm glad you could make it. But yeah, it's got to be 12, 13 years ago now, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
A lot's gone on, hasn't
it? Exactly. No time has changed since then, in both our lives, I think.
Yeah, so we first met, I think I was about maybe 20, 21, something like that. I'm 38 now.
Yeah.
So we were. I was a temp in an office that you were working in.
Did I know you before then? Is that where I met you?
That's where you met me.
Is it?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I got chatting to you because you played on like the club circuit.
Yeah.
You were playing keyboards and stuff.
I was. Yeah. For my sins. Yeah. Because we were both in the same kind, obviously same kind of industry. And yeah, because I thought I might have known you before then. But I was trying to work it out on the way here, exactly when we met.
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? We can
has.
Forgive ourselves, and we're getting to that age where it's not easy to remember anything now, is it?
No, that's very true. But yeah, a lot has gone off since then.
Yeah, so that's what I want to talk about. So obviously there'll be some people that'll be tuning into this because they'll be aware of what you do, and then there'll be some people from my side that'll be wondering what the hell's going on here. Why has he got his old workmate to come and talk with him? And Chris is the Mindologist. Can we refer to you that as there's multiple things that you do?
There is a few multiple things that I do. Obviously, that is my main focus nowadays. It's not always been the case, obviously, as you know, back in the day. But yeah, that's what I'm doing currently. I am a business coach, come clinical hypnotherapist, come helping people move forwards in all areas of entrepreneurship. And it's definitely been a journey. It's definitely been a journey in what I do. But I think I found my passion. I definitely found my passion. And it took me a long, long time to find it. I went through quite a lot of variations, like obviously back in the day I was in the office, not for me at all. And I think, as musicians, as entrepreneurs, as whatever we want to call ourselves, we know that deep down. That's not what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And
it's just a case of journey of finding where you're supposed to be. And I think I'm definitely there, or are we ever where we're supposed to be? Who knows? But I'm definitely on the right journey now.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people. I imagine most people would wish they were doing something else and not held within those barriers of having to pay the bills the standard way.
That's a very deep conversation, isn't it? And so many people are locked in the notion of 9 to 5. We must do this, programmed by our parents who are programmed by their parents. Got to go out, got to go and get a job, go to university possibly, and work your arse off until you die. In a nutshell, there is no other way of looking at it. And I just thought
Sunday, Monday, happy days.
I just thought, nope, that's not for me. And sometimes, but then again, entrepreneurship can be a whole different beast anyway. And sometimes you work much harder than your 9 to 5, but it doesn't always feel like work.
Yeah.
So there is that balance and that trade-off, I think.
Yeah, I think you're probably working twice the amount, but actually doing something that you love.
Yeah.
Which in some ways can better your mental health, but then also it can strain it, I imagine, as well. Which I think we've all probably fell victim to that at some point.
100%. Obviously with lots of hours comes lots of potential for burnout. And I think it'll come out in the conversation anyway. But as we move along, I've been through burnout many times. been through lots of mental health, mindset challenges. But I also think if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't be doing my job what I am doing now.
Yeah.
So I'm a great believer in everything happens for a reason. Not always the best way, but I do think we have to take deep learnings from this kind of stuff. And I've got a feeling this conversation might go very deep quite fast because I've got lots to talk about. But yeah, I'm a great believer in that.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of people that I've met over the years that, like you say, they start off in those whatever job it is, it's the office, it's a trade, it's they work in a bank, whatever it is that they're doing, and they just stay that way forever. But some people are happy with it.
Exactly.
I don't know if it's just. I'm glad it's not just me, because
it's not just
I never felt happy just with amongst that, and then even just if you're like progressing within that industry for some reason, whatever I've done it in like the care sector and things like that, and progressed. And I never really, it was like, oh, that's nice, I've got a promotion. Oh, that's nice. Oh, I've got this. Oh, I'm doing this. And I'm responsible for that now. But I never kind of like felt kind of fulfilled from it. I was just like, it's just something I'm doing. Yep. Obviously, I mean, don't get me wrong. I went into that industry because, like most people, you would go in because you want to make a difference. You do get the odd person that just, I just need a job,
Of course.
And I've not got a criminal record, so I can get that job. And it's quite easy to step into that as long as you've done nothing wrong in life.
Yeah.
And, but I think for me, like when I was doing that, it kind of stamped out the passion, because the higher up I got, the further away I got from actually caring for people and looking after people and spending time with them and doing more jumping through hoops, ticking boxes, and checks and just dealing with staff and things like that. You're not really that. Suddenly, you're not actually doing what you set out to do. And I was like, well, really, I just want to be doing music stuff. So,
of course, no, absolutely, and that's your passion. It always has been. Obviously, since I've known you, that was your passion. And I know even back in the office when we were working together, that's all that was on your mind.
Oh, yeah, it's all I talked about, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't get much done, really.
No. But you're right. I've worked in a few different jobs in the past, but I worked for a company for 15 years in my last role. And I worked myself up to sales manager. And I just remember one moment, and I was sat there thinking, am I going to die in this office, looking at a wall with a phone in front of me and a computer? And that's just the thought suddenly sort of triggered something in me, like, I've got to do something.
Yeah.
I've got to, this isn't me. Don't even like sales. Like, I'm not. And that, again, that has affected the role that I'm currently doing now, because although it's my business and it's my job, I'm also anti-sales. I don't do hard sales with people anymore. Yeah. Whereas when you're in a sales role and you're sales manager, that is the drive behind the position. Yeah. You've got to get sales because you're working I was working for a multi-million-pound company, like a European company. I had to do it. Didn't have a choice. Didn't like it. And that's why I sort of realised it wasn't me. And I've lost my train of thought then. But, so my best mate from years ago, it's an interesting story how he worked for a company on, what do you call it when you go through school when you're like 15, 16? Work experience, isn't it? Oh, yeah. So he went to a company during work experience when he was 15, 16. They liked him that much, took him on. When he was 16 or 17, I can't remember exactly. Still works for him now. He became the managing director a few years ago. Wow. And he hated it. Yeah. He worked his way all the way through. Obviously, I'm not mentioning names in case he doesn't want me to talk about it, but you get the idea. He worked his way all the way through, up to managing director, thinking that's what he wanted. And now he wants to go into gardening. Yeah, there's so many. I meet these people there's highly successful, and they'll go, yeah, it's great, and they're on 150 grand a year, blah blah blah, and all this, and they say, well, I wish I were just kind of welding go-karts on us once a week or something, just something random like that. People's got all these interests and hobbies, and they just kind of push them all to one side because life just takes you, down a rabbit hole, and next minute it's like, oh, married, kids, house, got all these bills, this and that, blah blah blah, job pressures. They've not really got the time to pursue that. No. And they daren't risk it going wrong
and everything all going tits up, basically.
It's a very fine line, isn't it? And I speak to people every day, you know, with the coaching side and the business side. And it's a fine line between bringing the money in and people wanting money. But I've found that the more money that people get, and the rich people I work with, it's never about the money anymore. You get to a certain level and it's about the freedom that the money gives you.
Yeah.
It's all about the freedom that money gives you. So they can decide when they want to go on holiday, how many times they want to go on holiday, where to send the kids to school. They can pay for the kids to go to school.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not about, when you get to a certain level of wealth, it's not about the car, the Lambo, the big house. Obviously, it's nice to have a big house, but it's not about that to them. It's about what it gives their family and their lifestyle.
Yeah.
Which is a massive mindset shift.
Well, yeah, because there's a lot of people they put pressure on themselves to have the newest phone. They've got to have they've got to get that leased car, and they've got to make sure that they've got the new reg, and they've got to have the fanciest clothes. They can't be seen in the same outfit too many times. All that type of stuff. They've got to have a bigger house than their friends. But then you've got people, like you say, they drive to make sure that they get themselves in a position where they are comfortable. And they're not blowing it all on random things. They want that, like you say, they want that freedom. They're like, well, I want the time, because time's precious.
Yes.
It's to me more precious than the money. You know, when you've got people like Bill Gates who wears like a $70 watch.
Exactly.
And then you've got rappers who are on a pittance compared to what he's got, and they're buying $200,000 watches or cars that are worth £600,000 and stuff like that. I suppose it's what makes you happy, but sometimes I think we get confused about what we think happiness will be, because there's a lot of people who have got all these things and they still don't seem very happy. So it wasn't like they wanted, having the new Ferrari or whatever it might be, or an expensive pair of shoes or something. It's temporary. It's great for that moment.
Yeah.
It's, oh yeah, brilliant, and they might like it because it means that they feel like they're like a valued person because they've got this car, and people think I'm cool. I mean, 9 times out of 10, most people just go break. So it's not always these nice fancy things that are going to make life amazing and beautiful for you. You've got there's that, like you said, there's that freedom, and just not having those worries, because there's a lot of people who've got all these big fancy things, and then they're worrying about, I need to make sure I make as much as I did last year now because I've got to maintain this.
Yeah, totally. That is a definition. I mean, I've obviously I have researched this stuff for years, just because I'm a mindset coach. I've had to, and the people I work with are a lot of 6- and 7-figure clients, so I've seen this directly from working with people. There's a definition between rich and wealthy.
Yeah.
Rich is where they've got the money coming in, and money is an amplifier. So it either makes you a bigger dick, or it makes you into a better person, because you start giving, you start sharing. But it also highlights people's insecurities. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with having a nice car. There's nothing wrong with, but it depends on what you're doing it for.
Yeah.
If you're doing it because you've always fancied a Ferrari and I want to drive one, I've always wanted to drive one since I was 6 years old. Amazing.
Yeah.
If you're doing it to buy a Lambo to show off to your neighbour who's bought one last week, when you've got the better model, that's a big insecurity.
We're considerably richer than you.
But there's ways and means, and there's differences in why people do it.
Yeah.
The people who come to me for confidence sessions are normally the people on Facebook who display their wealth, who show off the wealth. Not even wealth, the riches.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And the quietest people are never the ones who need it.
Yeah.
The wealthy people, you don't even know someone's wealthy, because they will never broadcast it.
Yeah.
And it's always the people you don't expect. And the rich people, you will find, they're, like you just said, they're hammering away trying to keep that lifestyle up.
Yeah.
And they don't feel very confident.
Yes, I've got, I say more acquaintances, people that have, they've got a lot of nice things, but they've kind of let it slip that they're living kind of hand to mouth, and it would only take a liquidation of the company they work for things to get very messy over the next 6 months, and that just terrifies me. I just can't put myself in a position to commit to something that is going to potentially bankrupt me if I have a few rough months, you know. But then I've got a few friends who they have got money in the millions, and they but you wouldn't know.
No.
They just, you know, they just dress like everybody else. They may have got like maybe a nicer car and things like that, but they don't go mad with it.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's like you say. I could say it's what makes you happy, or it's what you think makes you happy.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. And the thing is, nobody ever knows until you've truly gone through the process of being content with yourself, which not many people do. You know, some people just don't realise that you can. Some people just don't know what to do, because I'm seeing it day in and day out. And once you've gone through that process, I'm not saying that you can be happy with nothing. But, you can be happy with nothing, but you don't have to be happy with nothing. But it all depends on what you are doing it for, I believe. Definitely. And the biggest thing in life you can do is give, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, I don't know, have you heard of Simon Squibb at the moment?
No.
He's just started a company called Help Bank. And all he's literally done, he's built loads of companies in the past, multi-millionaire, and he figured out, he sold his last company for an undisclosed amount. He won't tell anybody, but he's made millions, basically. Yeah. And he figured out that he doesn't have to do a day's work again, and he can give every day. So he gives to new entrepreneurs who want to start a business, and they pitch to him, and he walks around the streets just handing money out for people to start businesses up. But he doesn't expect anything back. Now that, to me, is a definition of somebody who's in the right mindset. Because the amount of people he's helping fulfill their dreams is phenomenal. You know, he's going viral at the moment.
Yeah, well, it must make him feel pretty good, to be fair.
Absolutely. And there's always that reciprocal thing, isn't there? There's always that thing where, do we do it for other people, or do we do it to feel better? You know. But the thought process behind it is amazing. You know, and if he feels better for it, amazing as well.
Well, I imagine most people do, don't they? You feel, you know, if you give someone you see sat outside a shop, you know, on a blanket, you give them a few quid. It's like you feel. I mean, yeah, you've not changed their life, but you makes you feel a little bit better. Thinking, I wonder how many people just walk past them, they ignore them. Because people do, don't they? They just literally, you know, they'll say, "Oh, has anyone got any change?" And they just walk past as if they're not even there. But I mean, for someone like him to be potentially helping someone fulfill their dream, it's like, wow.
No, totally. And I think, you know, human nature is inherently selfish. You've only got to look at the state of the fucking world nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, much more, I don't know if it's changed or whether it's just because of social media we see it more.
Yeah.
And to get yourself out of that selfish nature is a massive thing. And if you can do that, people will change the world.
Yeah.
But not many people know how. I don't think.
I think it's a kind of fear of backlash to a certain degree, because you think, because it's like when people see, like, I don't know, a fight in a pub, not everybody's going to come and break that up because they're too scared of what might happen to them jumping in, you know. It's the similar situation in every kind of aspect of life, where people, they probably want to help, but they think, well, what might happen to me? What if people turn on me or my family or something happens to us, you know? So they just kind of, I'll keep out of it.
Totally.
But no, I know what you mean about the social media thing. It's, people keep saying to me, like, oh, it's, you know, the world's knackered, there's all this stuff going on, and it probably always did happen, like you said. It's just because people are filming it now. Yeah. Because all you ever saw before were what TV controlled and what it would show you, you know, what they chose to show you. So now you've got people filming just on a public level there, and then you can just see exactly what's going on, whether it be domestic violence or someone's, I don't know, shoplifting or dumping stuff in a van in the middle of a street and things like that. You know, there's just little things that wouldn't go on TV and wouldn't get put in the news unless something really drastic happened at that moment. Yeah. And that stuff has been going on for years. Of
course it has. Yeah. The information is instant. That's the only difference now.
Yeah.
And we can see it straight. We can see it live in some cases.
Yeah.
You know, like daylight robbery being filmed live, and it's just like, yeah, the world's gone nuts. But it probably has always happened.
Yeah. They started, Because I saw one of those kind of like, I don't know why it was on a banter page on Instagram, but it was like I think it was in Scotland like this week, someone trying to shoplift. It looked like he'd got a gun on the, and I'm like, you see it on TV, but and you know it happens, but you just never imagine it happening while you're there. But it were amazing to see because people just jumped in and just, I mean, one guy, he just jumped on the guy's back, got him in an headlock, and I don't know if you've seen how, if you've ever watched MMA, but he were hammer fisting on the back of this guy's head, and I'm sat there on my phone just tensed up, going, "Go on, get him,
take him out." I think I've saw the same clip last night. Was it in the Buckies? I've watched a very similar clip recently, and he walked in with something. He jumped over the counter, started attacking the woman.
Yeah, that's the one.
And the two guys ran out and started battering him.
Yeah.
Good on him, you know.
But some people would, and fair enough, because some people would be too scared and terrified to get involved in that. Like we just mentioned, but I suppose you don't know how you're going to be until that situation comes, that fight or flight.
Exactly.
You and I could say, "Oh well, I'd help out," but it's like. But how do you know until you're in that position? You don't know what until you've got something placed in front of you. You don't know how you're going to react to it until it comes. Everybody wants to help.
Of course, absolutely. But the thing is, you can't, in that fight and flight moment, you can't control your body. No. And a lot of people would seize up, not knowing what to do, because the mind just goes, shuts off, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And as much as people want to help, physically their body locks up. That's why it's called freeze. Because they can't help it, the nervous system shuts down. And it's just like, it's, I'm just completely lost.
It's the mind. It's just because it's whatever's going on. Like you say, you probably have about 20 thoughts in those few seconds. Like, what if I help out, and what if I get injured? And then there's a knock-on effect to my family, blah, blah, or whatever. And, but then obviously they're probably thinking, well, I could be a hero here, or I could help that person, or I could stop this horrible thing happening. Because it winds me up, when you see that stuff, because obviously everybody's working hard, everybody's struggling. And then someone comes along and just points something shooty or sharpy and just says, I want all this off you.
Yeah, I mean, like, especially with knives nowadays, I used to do martial arts years ago, and my instructor was like a 6-foot doorman. And the very first thing he said was, if someone comes at you with a knife, you run.
Yeah.
There is nothing you can do. You might see all these videos on
action
online.
Films.
Yeah. Even, on TikTok and stuff like that, knife defences and stuff like that.
Oh, they're hilarious.
Yeah, but when you are in a real altercation where somebody is mostly untrained with a knife and they're just flailing it, you do not stand a chance. If you've trained for 20 years, you run. Obviously, if your family's there, it's a different scenario.
Oh, yeah.
You might want to protect them. But if you're on your own, you don't try and fight it. You get out of there.
Yeah. Just call him names and run off.
Yeah. I'm faster than you.
I'll text you, prick. No, there's a guy, I don't know if you've seen him on internet, and he's got all like the martial arts get up on. I think he's got like shaved head, and he's doing it in slow motion, showing you how to remove a knife from someone that's attacking you. But he's got like someone holding a rubber knife, but even while he's doing it in slow motion, the blade is rubbing across his forearm. And it's all just, I don't know if he's doing it just to take the piss, but everyone is just taking piss out of him. But no, I've always been told, like, I've worked in a few different situations where people have kind of said, like, if this ever happens, you run.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing you can do about it.
And the whole idea is self-preservation, or preservation of your family, or whatever you want to call it. You get out of there. You don't piss about, trying to be a hero, unless someone. I understand that if someone else's life is at risk and you want to try and help him, of course. But it's situation dependent.
Yeah, you don't like push your wife over.
Yeah,
and run.
Sort this, Doug.
Oh God. So, because we did say before we started we'd go on a few tangents anyway, didn't we? But I wanted to ask you some more questions about obviously about your business and the things that you do. And so
totally.
You gave us like a bit of a kind of rough breakdown of the multiple roles that you have within it. How did it kind of come about? Like, what what led to you? Obviously, I know we've touched on that. You've had a few, multiple experiences where you thought this is what I want to do. But how did that idea come about to set it up?
I think with any kind of therapist, any kind of somebody who deals with the mind, like psychologist possibly or whatever, there's always a reason why they get into it. Always a reason. You speak to anybody who does this kind of work and they'll have a backstory.
Yeah.
And mine was, I guess, lots of trauma growing up, then the usual bullying. I was like the class nerd, used to get hammered most days at school. Then I had a breakdown when I was 14, 15. I had about 2 or 3 more breakdowns through my life after that. I suffered from anorexia, irritable bowel syndrome. Was one of the side effects of my horrendous anxiety, clinical depression, everything you could throw at me. I took it basically.
You had a cocktail.
Yeah, in a nutshell. And so when you've got to move through that in life, and I did, and I don't think any day is perfect for anybody, but from who I was then, the classic introvert wouldn't say hello to anybody sat in a corner, to being a confident person. I'm a keynote speaker. The difference is phenomenal. In how I was to how I am now.
Yeah.
Having worked through all of that, you sort of I wanted to help other people. And I started off with mental health work, and it wasn't quite my bag. Although I'd taken myself through it.
Yeah.
It was quite, of course it was quite dark. It was quite depressing when you couldn't help somebody as fast as they wanted to be helped. So I took loads of learnings from that, and I thought, okay, how can I help people where what would be fun, interesting, and I could use the skills that I've learned, and obviously I qualified, as well along the journey.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, business owners, because I've always been in and out of business over the years. I thought entrepreneurs who have got traumatic backgrounds, who've had trauma, have experienced trauma, who want to make more money, which is a separate scenario which I can explain later on, but want to make more money, want to be clearer, want to be more focused, want more direction in life. And with that encompasses lots of other areas in the life, but that is the key areas that I work on. And long story short, I started that because I ended up seeing a brilliant therapist about relationships, because I've always struggled with having relationships. Probably due to lots of trauma cycles in my past. I was attracting the same people, again, which is a deep subject, but I was attracting the same people, and I thought, right, I need to sort this out. I keep attracting the same person. Why? And by then I'd been doing lots of studying and thinking, I know it's me. I know I was attracting the people. I didn't know why, so I went to see a therapist. And she helped me, but as therapy works, you deal with one thing and something else starts unlocking and clearing. So I cleared a few things out, and at the last session she said, have you ever thought about becoming a therapist or a coach? I'm like, yeah. But now you said it, even more so, because you've obviously seen something in me. She said, well, you're quite empathic, you're quite knowledgeable in certain areas. You'd be quite good at it. And that was it. I thought, right, yeah, sounds good. And it was from that moment that I started building the business, basically. And that was only about 5 years ago, I'd say. And then from then it just rocketed, basically. Yeah. So that's how I got into it.
What were the initial setup then for that? How did you? Because obviously you've had that moment. I'm going to do it.
Yeah. What
were your next steps from that point?
It all seemed to come at once, because obviously I was sat in the office looking at the wall, thinking, "Am I going to die in this place? Are they going to drag me out in a coffin?" Thinking, and then rumours started that we're going to get redundancies going through the company. I thought, "Oh, this is like divine timing kind of thing." I was made redundant. I can't remember the exact year, 2018, early 2019, and I thought, right, this is my chance, and I didn't know what I wanted to do at that point, because I started off as a clinical hypnotherapist. I didn't want to do weight loss. Didn't want to do stop smoking.
Yeah.
Bored the shit out of me. Wasn't interested in the slightest. So I've always been quite niche in what I do. You know, I've always been quite focused in certain areas. So I started off doing that. And obviously then came the pandemic, so everything went online.
Yeah, yeah.
And that just rocketed my career even more, because I was working worldwide straight away. So I had to get like so many hours in, through my training. I had to get like 250, 300 hours in of training. So I was doing all that online with people. And then from that moment onwards, it sort of expanded into business coaching, mindset coaching, rather than just hypnosis.
Yeah.
Which is my baby, I guess. Now, that's the thing I love. But through expansion of doing other stuff, it's made me better, much better, than just focusing on one thing.
So the hypnosis thing, because I wanted to ask about that, because you knew it were coming.
Everyone does.
Yeah. So obviously I know nothing about it. I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like you say, I've heard about people going and saying, "Oh, I'm going to an hypnotist to tell me to stop smoking," stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I've never really followed it up. Maybe it's just because I just show too little interest in everybody else's life. me. Yeah. So the only thing I obviously know about when somebody says hypnotist, I'm thinking of some people on a stage acting like a chicken, that type of thing. How does it work with what you do, and how does it even work really? Because I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, great question, because
I've never met somebody apart from someone that's a bit show businessy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that does it.
No, totally, and it's a great question, because as I advertise, I forget that people don't know what it is. I'm there thinking, everyone knows what hypnosis is, everyone knows what hypnotherapy is, and then I meet people like you every day who've not got a Scooby-Doo.
About anything.
Just in general. I play my guitar. So like you've seen stage hypnosis, probably from back in our day, Paul McKenna, when he used to be on the TV shows. I'm kind of showing my age now, Darren Brown nowadays. Lots of people have heard of Darren Brown. A lot of his show is hypnosis. Not all of it is a magician as well, so he intermingles psychology. So stage hypnosis is totally real. Yep. Totally real. People get up there and start doing things. They're not against doing those things. It's just that their mind is going along with it. So hypnosis is... A great definition I heard is believed in imaginings. So your mind starts to believe that what you're told is true.
Right.
So on stage, if you go to a stage hypnosis show, you will not get up on stage unless you know something's going to happen. If you're an introvert, like not really confident, scared, anxious, you wouldn't even get up on that stage.
Yeah.
So just by getting up on that stage, you have told your mind, something might happen here. Hypnosis is natural. It's thousands of years old, all the way back to the Egyptian sleep temples, and probably even earlier than that. And it's a natural state of focus. Some people will say, well, when people daydream, they drift off into another kind of mindset. But if you ever see kids watching television, and they're sat there,
some adults like that.
It's normally me. I'm normally asleep. So when you look at a kid like that watching television, that is pure hypnosis, because they've gone, completely gone. They're nothing. You could be talking to them, completely closed off to it. And you might have to shout them to get their attention.
Or throw something.
Have that. Or, well, you will have definitely experienced this. You drive somewhere, you get to the other end, and you're like, I have no recollection of that journey.
Yeah,
whatsoever.
I've done that before.
Or we're driving along, and you're thinking...
What's this guy doing on my bonnet?
Or you're driving along, and you're thinking about your gig that night. I've got to learn that I've got to play that new song, I've got to remember lyrics. And then you sing lyrics to yourself, whilst you're driving. Because the part of your brain that controls your life... Okay, so the part of the brain that controls your life, how much percentage-wise do you think it is?
Oh, I don't know.
So your conscious mind, so the conscious mind decides what you have for tea, decides what you're going to do that day. How much do you think takes up of your brain?
Those parts of it, I imagine quite a lot. I imagine it. Well, no, I imagine it's taking a lot of your kind of conscious mind up, your thoughts, because you're just thinking about that stuff. It's in the forefront, but then there's a lot of things you're probably just doing at the same time. Like when people are at work, they're just doing the job, and they're probably planning what they're doing tonight while they're doing it. Not really, like you said, they're not thinking about what they're doing right now.
No.
That's probably why there's so many quality issues with products we're buying, isn't it?
Exactly.
People's thinking about going for a pint, watching England tonight.
This is the thing, isn't it? No, it's true. It's a good point. So basically, unconsciously, the habits, the stuff that we know, what we learn, that just we don't think about, controls 95% of your day. Now you think about that, and it's probably even more, but data shows at the minute 95% of your day.
Right.
So 5% of your day is controlled by you thinking, I've got a meeting tonight, I've got a gig tomorrow. Everything else is controlled what you were taught by what you were taught as a kid, by what you were shown as a kid, by what you learned at school. A lot of it is taken in the first 7 years of life. Doesn't mean that's where it stops. That doesn't mean where the bulk of it comes in. We develop habits. Which hand we're going to brush his teeth with stays. We don't do different hands every day.
Yeah, you don't think about it, do you? You just do it.
And then everything in between. Now you could go on forever. No habits that you do. We don't think about any of them. We just do them every day. And that is a massive... So when people can't change, that's because they're being controlled by 95% behind the scenes. Best way of putting it. It's called the unconscious, subconscious. And it's behind the scenes. They don't see it, they can't control it. They can control it, they can learn to control it, but no one knows really how to.
Yeah.
The trouble is, if we're running off 95% of our day, we'll always do the same things till we die. True. We'll always have the same amount of money, we'll always do the same job, we'll always go on the holiday twice a year or once a year, we'll always have the same ideas, we'll bring our kids up the same way. So if we want to be better, or we want to change, or we want to get more money, we've got to change more stuff.
Yeah.
Than just... It's a bit deeper than what we'd imagine.
Yeah, you can't just do the same thing 10 times and expect different results, can you?
Exactly. So, definition of insanity.
Yeah, unless you're a pub singer.
Same songs for 20 years.
Yeah, applause one night, not a tit at second night.
It's true.
Yeah, it's... God, there's a lot to think about there, isn't it, really?
Yeah, there's lots. Yeah, it's a very deep subject, but it's a very... You can go into it as deep as you want, you can just stay on the surface. But in answer to your question, I've gone off on a tangent again. In answer to your question, the way it differs for me is... If I'm on a stage and I'm getting someone to dance around like a chicken, that's not me controlling them. That's me suggesting to them what they might want to do. I can't say, dance like a chicken.
Yeah.
And force them to do it if they didn't want to do it. So, in the same way, I can talk in a session, in one of my sessions, I can talk to someone's subconscious mind and go, have you thought about this? And their mind's like, oh, no, I haven't. So it's the same control is not the right word. It's the same suggestions, but in different areas of life.
Yeah.
It's not imagine you're on a beach having an ice cream, when everyone's going through the motions, on stage, and it's imagine getting better. Imagine what you could do to make more money. Imagine what it'd be like to deal with that trauma, or whatever we're dealing with at the time. So same suggestions, different life context.
Yeah, I always wondered how it works. Part of me were like I imagine a lot of people would be is like a bit sceptical, thinking, are they in on it? Are they jumping around on purpose because they've been told to? Have they been paid to do it? Or like you do when you see many shows, and you always think like, has that person been planted and stuff like that? Because it does make you wonder. But then at the same time, I was just worrying about today, thinking, is he going to put me under some Jedi mind trick halfway through and get me to just start confessing loads of weird stuff?
And I'll take your credit card on the way out. Thanks very much. No, like it can't be used. It can't be used for evil. You know, it can't be used. There's certain things that can. What's the best way of putting it? Human beings can be conditioned quite easily. Mm. It goes back all the way back to Pavlov's dogs. If anyone's ever heard of Pavlov and his dogs before, it's just conditioning. And humans are brilliant at being conditioned. Well, flipping heck, we've only got to look at the past 5 years for human conditioning.
Oh, the way people can be easily manipulated by influencers. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love watching that person and filming, the things that they put on the internet, and they're on TikTok and they're my favourite person. Oh, they've bought this. They say it's the best one. Oh, well, I'm going to buy that now. People just quickly make a decision based on someone else's opinion sometimes, rather than
of course
checking things out for themselves.
No, classic conditioning. That's all it is. And so we can, with mind techniques and with NLP, which is another form of change work, yes, we could condition negatively, but it'd be highly unethical, and obviously I wouldn't want to anyway. But you get the idea. Hypnosis is just helping somebody change their own mind. I can't control what you think, but I can help bring it out of you to see how you can change. Yeah. That makes sense.
So it's not technically influencing it, is it? It's because obviously, how can I word this? It's like when the cogs are just turning, and it's like, come on, form a sentence.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like it's
every day.
But yeah, it's like, see, you're not kind of like telling them what to think, are you? You're kind of just guiding them to their own conclusion themselves.
Yes. I describe it very. It can be quite spiritual, but I am more of a spiritual person nowadays. So I'll describe it the way I normally describe it. Basically, I believe that we're born whole. As whole human beings, full of light, full of energy, unless we're born with some kind of disability or whatever. No, normally we're born whole. We're born with no phobias, no fears. We're born with no conditioning or anything like that. We're born with 2 fears, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. So everything else we learn through life. Everything else we learn through life. So the way I describe it is that as we go through life, the first 7 years, negativity, negative situations, trauma, come in through the nervous system of the child and get locked away. So I talk about it as the body's full of light, and as we move through life, sediment starts to pile on. All this crap that we don't want, all this depression, all this anxiety, just piles on all this light. So we lose the light. We lose our way. You can look at it any way you want. We lose our way. So my job is to start to dig out the sediment until you start to see chinks of light. And then, when we know about like light bulb moments, we talk about light bulb moments in therapy or whatever, people start to see the light and they start to think of ideas. Oh, if I change this, my life will change here.
Yeah.
And as we start to bring out the crap, as we start to bring out the negativity, as we start to change the trauma, the light starts to reappear. Can we ever find the light? No. Is anyone ever, going to ascend to that level? Who knows? No, probably not. But some people may do. But it's not about that. It's just life is a journey, isn't it, at the end of the day? So that's the best way I describe it. My job is to dig out the sediment and show people who they always were before all the shit that happened to them. If that makes sense.
Yeah. It's just making me think of a previous episode. I had a lady on called Miranda Arrier, and she works with a lot of people in the NHS for mental health issues, and she mentioned something very similar, talking about how we kind of do like lose our way, and we get kind of, whether you want to, obviously you referred to it as sediments. I think we were talking it more of like a kind of storm cloud type of thing, and trying to clear those storms and things like that. So it's the same thing, but obviously just explained in a different way. But yeah, there seems to be, because I'd obviously talked to other people that in not the same professions, but they cover similar areas, and they'll sometimes talk about things in very similar ways to what you guys have said, but obviously explain it in their own way. So it must be a real thing, because it's, because a lot of people's been quite consistent with it. So I don't think we are, we do start off quite fresh, don't we? And then obviously we take a few knocks along the way. Some people more than others. Yeah. It takes a bit of time to dust themselves off, doesn't it, to get back on?
It does. I think you made a good point just then, in the fact that everyone's biologically different. You could have two twins. Two twins? Yeah, twins. Yeah. And they see a car accident, as an example. One might see it and go, oh, God, that's horrendous. And then go on the day like they've never seen it. One might be traumatised, have a year off work. Oh, I can't get over this. I've got PTSD of all these visions. Yeah. Biological, even down to brain chemistry. So we can't judge who's going to be affected more so. So people who have PTSD doesn't mean that they're weaker or that they're more susceptible. It just means that they're wired differently. Some people hold stuff more than others. And when they're shown how to release it, their life changes. And I always say to people, as I gave the example of 95% and 5%, when people go to talking therapy, classic therapy, talking therapy mainly deals with the 5%. The problem is, the problems are held in the 95%, not in the 5% of the brain. So when you go to talking therapy, you might go for a year, 2 years, you're not accessing your problems. You're chatting away from this 5% of your brain. Oh, I think it's this. I think I was 5 years old and this happened to me. But you don't know that because it's locked away in there. Talking therapy eventually might access it just through literally constant talking of it out. Yeah. The way I love what I do, not just me, but obviously my style of therapy, hypnotherapy, I cover in 3 sessions, approximately, what would take 1 to 2 years of talking therapy. Yeah. It's that powerful. Because all that we're doing is accessing the part of the brain with all your problems. Yeah. So much more efficient, so much faster, so less traumatic. When I used to go to talking therapy years ago, when I was like 15, 16, I come out wanting to jump off a bridge. I was that depressed for having to talk about it for an hour. I'm thinking, this can't be right. Yeah. Even back then, I'm thinking there must be a better way than this shit. Going through, talking about your traumas and coming out thinking, I've just re-traumatised myself about 10 times here, kind of thing.
Yeah, I've done it with, I had to put myself down on a waiting list for like grief counselling when I lost my dad. And I'd gone through what I saw was the worst of it all before this like 2 years came along, when they finally got in touch with me and said, oh, we've got someone you can talk to. So I had like a weekly conversation with this person from, I think it was like back end of last year. And it was like, I felt like before I'd started, I was like, well, I'll do it, but I think I'm just, because obviously I don't know what you're supposed to feel like, or whether you're supposed to feel better after a certain point or more accepting of it or whatever. And I got to this point where I'm like, well, I think I'm just all right enough to plod along with life again, but I'm just going to do the first one anyway. And then it, like you mentioned before, it just opens up an absolute can of worms, because you just start reeling everything off. And then like the first few of them, I'd come out of it and I was like, oh my God, I feel like crap. Yeah. Like literally like teary. Yeah. Felt like I got a brick up pressing on my chest. All my body felt lifeless. And I was like, and after a bit of time, I was thinking, why am I doing this? I'm like, is it actually going to help me? Yeah. There were points where I did, as time went on, I was doing it, keeping it up. And it was like, I'd have these little eureka moments with things where I'd start kind of feeling a little bit better. They're like little mini wins. And I was like, oh, maybe this is the right thing to do. And I kept it going for a point where then I only really kept just getting these like little mini wins. And then obviously like my life's like hectic. I do that many different things. It was becoming an inconvenience to do it. And I don't know whether or not I'd stopped it because I think it would just, it's not important enough for me because I've got all this other stuff that's just pressing, or maybe I'll just part of me thinks I'm only just going to get these little mini wins because I don't believe that I can just like go, everything's all better now and I'm happy with it. Well, not happy with the situation. No one will be, so it's just really weird how it starts these, start these sessions and you just come out just feeling like worse, and because I think you go into it thinking that you're going to come out springing your step, bouncing. Oh, it's got an ice cream van now,
It's all gone.
Yeah, blue skies, rainbow. Yeah.
It's really interesting you say that, because I would never badmouth the therapy. It will work. It will help some people. Yeah, they'll just talk. Some people like to talk. Some people like to get stuff off the chest. Amazing, absolutely amazing. But I know, 100%, through thousands of hours of working with people, probably, that people don't want to talk about the stuff. People don't want to be dumped back in the stuff. We know how to rewire the brain faster than ever previously possible. So if we can do that, why would we need to subject ourselves to 2 years of traumatic flipping sessions?
Yeah.
That's the way I view it. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It doesn't mean that I disagree with it. It just means that it's not for a lot of people, I believe.
Yeah. I think, like for that situation for me, it's like, when it happened, it's like 4 weeks later, I got married, and it was like, so I'm caught up in all the build up to that, all the stuff going on.
Yeah.
I were in quite a high, I'd say like highish pressure job at the time, with lots of stuff going on and lots of things, and I didn't really have time to think about it all. No. And then when it all settled down, like maybe about 8 to 10 months later, it just like went whoop, and just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was like, it were as if it had happened that day.
Yep.
And it's weird how your body just kind of like it's, I don't know if it just shoves it into your subconscious or whatever. It's just like just holding it there on a shelf, waiting, because everything else, like you say, that 95%, I'm focused on all these decisions I'm making, all the things that I've got to do. And there were a lot of stuff at that time that I were doing, like musically and work-wise, and the house, and building this place and all sorts of stuff. And then all of a sudden it were like, as things just calmed a little bit, I were like, it was just all hitting me. But then you go and try and seek help, but they were like, oh, you can only have, you can only be put on the waiting list after like a year or whatever it might be. And I'm thinking, but I need this. I need it yesterday. And I understand there's going to be a waiting list, but why wait to be on a waiting list? Because if you need it urgently. Yeah. And like I say, I feel like it were probably too late by the time I got it, because I've been through the worst of it all. So, yeah, that's another conversation altogether, isn't it? The system's knackered, isn't it?
Yeah. So the way I view that is, and this is not me saying that that's what you had by any stretch of the imagination, but it's classic PTSD, how PTSD works. You get a soldier goes to war, deals with the war, deals with fighting on the front line, doesn't think about anything apart from fighting.
Yeah.
A year later, they're back home, and a year later, they're trying to adjust to civilian life, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, flashbacks, thinking about the mates who died next to him. They're having vivid imaginary scenes going off, and they're like, where's this shit come from? No, why didn't it happen at the time?
Yeah.
It doesn't happen at the time. It comes back.
Yeah, because you're so focused on the here and now, aren't you? So, obviously my situation, nowhere near as kind of traumatic to the things that they've seen and done, but the scenario and the path that we've followed is the same kind of situation, isn't it? It's like, I was so preoccupied with everything else. Obviously, we're thinking about it, but not having the time to sit and wallow almost. And then when I did get the moment, obviously, like I say, it all comes at once there. But and it works in a weird way, though. Things like grief, doesn't it? Because obviously, like you can have people who they might be fine for months on end, and they're waltzing about, getting through life, and then it just hits them randomly at random points.
Yeah. Again, the way I describe it is, you've got your subconscious mind down here, you've got your conscious mind above, and things happen through, in your example, things happen through your life, and then someone passes away, and all this stuff is building up underneath the surface.
Yeah.
And then it gets to the point where it's on the brink of coming through, but it's not quite, because you're still busy. You're still busy with getting married and stuff like that. Then all of a sudden, it hits a threshold, and it's poking out every now and then.
Yeah.
And it's showing you that it's there.
Yeah.
And then if it continues, it's going to start to come out into your conscious mind. Depends how much you've got going off in your life and how bad it was. But like classic PTSD, it's flashing out all the time. That's why people get flashback. Flashbacks to me is a subconscious mind saying, look at this. You're not resolved this.
Yeah.
Look at this. You need to deal with this. People don't know how to deal with it because they wouldn't know how to deal with it.
They're not. It's not like you get taught it in school or whatever. Do you? So,
exactly. But
this will happen.
Well, of course,
Classroom full of kids crying.
Let's do some meditation.
You might not like it, but that's what's going to happen.
Oh God, yeah. But
anyway, we'll let's jump rope.
Oh, I know.
No, I was. We were talking about that with like that kind of building up. I always like envisioned it in my mind as this kind of like carrying like a bucket of problems, and then obviously they get to a point where it starts overflowing.
Yep.
But like when you were talking about that threshold line, I experienced that. This just comes straight to me now. Immediately thinking of these multiple situations that kind of following summer. Every time I had a drink past a certain numbness level, it would all come out. Like I'd be fine all week,
of course,
cracking on, doing what I do, smiling, doing everything, and then all of a sudden, little mini meltdown.
Yeah.
So I got to a point where I just stopped drinking really for ages. Like at the moment, I only have like the odd drink every now and then, because I mean now I can actually like go out. I was getting to a point where I'd go out places, and as soon as I got past that, when you get past that line where you're just a bit kind of wobbly.
Yep.
I'd just be an absolute misery guts to be around, and I were getting then worried that I thought, oh my God, no one's going to want to come out drinking with me or do anything or come round. Like, he's just going to sit crying in the armchair.
Oh, bless you. It's difficult. It's really difficult because with your brain, like, alcohol is whatever, depressant, I think they call it. And to me, at the surface to our unconscious, imagine there's a little guard, like, looking all the time for anything coming through, and it's like, you're not coming past, because your subconscious can't come out normally. It can't show you stuff. So there's always a guard there filtering everything. Now, when you have a drink, it's like the guard just, like, collapses, basically.
Yeah.
And that filter between both...
He's got his feet up. Come in, you're all right.
He's had a few himself, basically.
Come in, I ain't seen you for a while, anxiety. Clinical depression.
Oh, God.
Come and join the party.
No, it's true though. It's that's how I define it. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of this stuff is my theories from working with so many people.
Yeah.
You start to see patterns and ideas. Like, this is the way I describe it. Doesn't mean that it's scientifically 100% accurate, but when that guard shuts off, there's a free for all.
Yeah.
Because you've dissolved the line, and you've had so many drinks, and it's gone past that point, and it can just all come out to play.
Yeah. Well, obviously, a lot of people do that anyway, don't they? Even they're not kind of struggling with things, they just start reeling off anything. They'll just start things that they don't agree with politically or what's going on in their street or anything. They'll just start reeling opinions off because it's that drunk mind. It's speaking the truth, isn't it? The things that they're thinking.
Of course.
They've removed the filter.
That's a classic example.
And it's a similar kind of filter when people go, "Oh, you all right?" And you go, "Yeah, I'm all right." Mm-hmm. And really, you're just thinking like, "Whoa,
no.
Today's hard."
It's sad but true. Like, it is sad because, especially men, I'm not saying women don't get involved, in this, but men struggle more so possibly to express their emotions. And men sometimes feel they've got to have a brave face on, they want to be protectors of the family. They want to be, there for the families, and it's not always easy for us to say, no, I feel like shit, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
And I'm much better at it nowadays than I used to be.
Yeah.
But it's a big thing. It's a real big thing.
Yeah, it's like when I did when I took doing those calls on the counselling calls, I was thinking, well, I'll just blab all this stuff to you because, like, when I'm like, so like my wife Libby, it's like she's just as busy as me. She's got like 10 million jobs, and she's just in and out, forever just going from place to place, getting sorted out, doing things, working, studying, all sorts of stuff. And you just kind of think, well, I don't want to just, when they'll come in and go, are you all right? And you don't start just reeling off all this stuff. So you just think, oh, I'll just put telly on and be quiet. Just put Netflix on.
I know. It's such a hard moment because you're with your loved one who you want to divulge all your innermost feelings to, but at the same time you don't want to put stuff on them. And you want to put a brave face on, and they're busy and they've got their own life.
Yeah,
it's a very thin dividing line, 100%.
Yeah, and I think when when you talk about stuff like relationships, it's like when they start off, they're always like there's no worries because there's nothing going on. No. You've not got the house together, you've not got all this stuff and blah 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 and everything. So you've not got all these like pressures and that, and it's just it's a lot of laughing and stuff like that. So you kind of want to keep that up as you're going on because that's what keeps it good. And I think you don't just want to then start like piling on all this stuff onto somebody because then they're thinking like, oh, I feel like crap every time I hang around with my other half.
You used to be so funny and now you're not.
Now it's just you that's the joke.
I've been there a few times.
I dip in. Like you say, I mean, it is, like I said, a bit of a journey, and it's like, can you get to a point where can I use the term cured, because I don't think you can get to I don't really believe that you can get to a point where you can just be perfectly fine. I think you've got to learn ways and techniques that are beneficial to you to manage situations, but then you get thrown a curveball because, like I say, something else will happen in life that you've never had any experience of. So you don't know how. Like you said, we were talking about when it's like when we're talking about things we teaching kids like about grief and stuff like that. People always go, "Oh, get them an hamster," because that'll prepare them for when the grandma goes and stuff like. It's like it's just stuff like that. It sounds horrible, but they do, don't they? People go like because they'll experience loss. But on obviously a much smaller level. Yeah. But it's like, because obviously it comes to us all, doesn't it? God, it's like, wow, we're proper getting a bit dark and deep on this this Sunday in Barnsley.
I know.
I can tell it's raining as well every now and then because I can hear it. This is British summer.
Oh, it's horrible.
But yeah, it's like you can't prepare you for every single situation. Like you said, it's like you don't know if two twins are going to see a car crash at some point. There's just wherever something's going to happen at some point for somebody, and they're not going to know how to deal with it. Some people, like you said, they might just go, "Oh, that's awful." Yeah. Do what they need to do. Yeah. I've helped out, and then I'll go back to my usual life. And then you've got other people that like that has ruined them for years. I've got friends that have gone through. I'm not going to go into them about. They've gone through some traumatic situations when they were younger, and it still comes out when they've had a drink to this day. Yeah. Clearly, like I say, it's there in the back of the mind, but they're so focused on whatever everything else is going on in their life, and then they'll talk about it and they'll tell me the story of stuff like it's new, like it's just happened, and it's like replaying. It's like 20 years ago. Yeah, but it's and like you say, it's like similar with people that have gone through things in the forces and stuff like that, or even just. You get people day to day that can deal with traumatic situations that'll stick with them forever, can't you? People in customer service can see some traumatic things at times. And I suppose it's like, do you ever kind of like, because you can't forget it, so how do they deal with it, really? That's what I'm thinking.
No, it's a great question.
Don't worry, that's a big one. You don't have to actually answer that one.
Well, I've got a quick answer. I have got a quick answer to that, but it's not. Yeah, it's never. Obviously, it's never straightforward. No. But the way I view it and the way that I would initially deal with it or start to deal with it, because like some people will recover faster than others, obviously, is we can't delete a memory. No one can delete a memory. You can't hypnotise someone to forget. That's not the issue. That's not the idea. What we do is humans are emotional beings. We work off emotion, love, fear, greed, hate, whatever. When something happens in our life, a traumatic event, we attach an emotion to it. Hence why great example, your mates, they're telling it like it's the first time it's happened, because it is. In their head, they're recycling it. So every time it cycles back, it's like, oh my God, it's like it's happening again. So what we do is we go, one way of doing it is we go back in a safe way. We're not going to dump someone in the traumatic event.
Yeah.
And what we do, we detach the emotion from the memory. So eventually, it can happen overnight. It can happen a few months down the line. Everyone's different. But when we detach the emotion from the memory stays, so we can go, oh yeah, that happened to me. But the emotion's gone. So it doesn't mean that we're deleting the memory.
Yeah.
So that's one way of doing it, by taking the emotion out. So your mates wouldn't feel the need to keep cycling it because the emotion's gone. When the emotion's gone, who cares?
Yeah.
The other way we can do it is, we know how to rewire the brain now. So what happens is we can go back to a traumatic memory and say something happened when we were 10 years old. We got shouted at by a parent. Nothing too deep. We get shouted at. Since being 10 years old, we've got thousands of life lessons we've been through. We might have kids of our own, whatever. And we can take all those lessons back and review the scene and change what happens in it. And when we change what happens in it, the brain rewires itself. So that event changes, believe it or not.
Right.
It's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Doesn't mean they're never ever going to remember any kind of forget all the traumas in their life. It means where the main impact thing started, we rewire it. Everything starts to fall apart behind it. Because if that one thing never happened, and we're not forgetting it, we're changing it.
Yeah.
And we change it. Most people will end up with a really happy memory, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And everything behind it, it's like a bridge. It just collapses. Because it's like there's nothing to hold on to anymore. That's a great way of doing it.
I never thought about the whole kind of revisiting the memory, like you said, detaching the emotion from it. It's like, it's just weird. I've never mentioned this to anybody, but it's like when you mentioned that, it just comes straight to me, a memory. Being about 15 years old, I know it was around the time I was doing work experience. You know, you kind of like roam the streets with your friends, walking around in big groups and stuff like that, hanging out. And one of my friends he was running and he knocked into a parked car and damaged the wing mirror. And a guy came out, and I'd got a similar zipped up jacket on, and he got hold of me and thought it was me. Got me by the like scruff of the neck and everything, and just like ragging me around and shouting and bawling. And obviously I was like little skinny kid, and this is like fully grown man. Know the guy is, know everything about, know his name and all sorts of stuff. And I used to replay it in my mind for like every day.
Yep.
Didn't say a word to anybody for weeks and weeks and stuff like that. And even now, like we're talking a long, long time. Every time I think of it now, I don't think fear and all that stuff. I've got this emotion of anger where obviously I would never do it, but my brain just goes, the moment you would do anything to annoy me right now, I'm just going to start laying into you, you know. And I've like got this, and I've still got this like weird thought of it on my mind all the time, that whenever it comes up, if it happens in my mind, and I go, oh, I remember that situation, I just immediately feel angry.
Yeah.
And it's weird. And it's like, obviously, I don't look angry right now.
Yeah.
But I can feel it now because I'm talking about it.
Of course you can. No,
but like you say, you hold it in because you just get on with your day, and whether you say it might be any kind of it might be an emotion of feeling angry or sad or scared or whatever it is that you're feeling, it creeps up a little, and you go, oh, and then I can feel it going now. It's gone. So
triggered. Yeah, it's triggered by a memory, and you think, right, yeah, this is how I feel now. And it's great you say that, because with that kind of thing, obviously it was terrible at the time, and you've remembered it for a long time. But it's not something if you changed, it'd destroy. No, if you change that feeling of anger, I could change that feeling of anger in 5 minutes flat.
Yeah.
If that. So when you remembered it again, you might be laughing about it.
Yeah.
That's how fast it is nowadays. It's crazy. But to some people, that's flipping life-changing.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, when you're a little kid, I mean, for me, like, for a good 10, 15 years, as I grew up and I got a bit, I mean, I'm not exactly like Hulk Hogan, but as I got a bit bigger and stronger, I used to think to myself, I'm going to go and lamp him. But then I was like, well, what good is that going to do? Is that going to make me feel better, or is that going to change the situation? It's happened now.
Yes.
So it's like, I've got to a point now, I'm like nearly 40 years old, and I'm thinking, well, I just need to just forget about it. But obviously, you can't forget about it. But now you've mentioned that about like trying to detach the emotion from the memory.
You don't forget about it.
I've just had some like little eureka moment in this last 5 minutes here.
You will, because this is how your subconscious works. You know, when you start to talk about stuff, it's going to sound really weird. You know, hypnosis isn't about sat with your eyes closed, like asleep.
Yeah.
Like being unconscious. Not about that. Hypnosis, definition of hypnosis is the use of focus and imagination. Now, we've been focused here, talking to one another quite intently because we've got cameras on us, got microphones in his faces. So you've been highly focused, and we've been discussing scenarios where you've been using your imagination. Now, this is hypnosis. I've not been doing it on purpose, obviously. I'm not going in a therapy session, but because you're in this state, which we both are, your brain's been like ticking away, thinking of these. As we've been talking, it's been thinking in the background, and all of a sudden it'll go, look at this, look at that. This is why hypnosis is a natural process. People think, oh, you can't hypnotise me, blah blah blah, bullshit. It's not about that. It's not about that. It's slightest. But just completely going off on a tangent again. A classic example about what you talked about, not the same scenario, but one of my traumas was when I was about 14, 15, I got leathered by this kid. He was like 3 or 4 years older than me. I was like this little nerd kind of thing coming out of school. And I honestly thought he'd rearranged my skull.
Yeah.
I was that badly beaten for months afterwards. My face turned a different shape and everything. Anyway, that aside. But I took a lot of like beating to my like left eye socket and whatever. And for years, I'm talking 20 years, it haunted me, that moment. And all the way through those 20 years, I suffered from eye pain. Now, there was nothing physically wrong, but what was happening was that trauma, when I thought about the traumatic event, it linked to my face. And because I'd not dealt with the trauma of that moment, the eye pain was coming back. The second I thought, right, this is ridiculous. Where's it? Because I forgot about it. Although the moment happened and it was deeply traumatic. You know, you move through life, don't you? And you move on. And I'm thinking, right, where is this pain coming from? If it's nothing physical, something must have happened. And as I did this work more and more and I learned about it, and I'm thinking, this is where I got absolutely hammered on my face. I went back to that moment and did all this work on it. Eye pain never felt a moment afterwards.
It's like almost like a phantom pain.
Yeah, phantom pain. Yeah, 100%.
See, I had another similar situation from 11 years old, and I got a pasting off a 15-year-old, which seemed like a huge person at the time, because there's a big difference from when you're 11 to 15, isn't the growth spurt in there and the strength difference.
Yeah.
We were in just in case anybody local's listening, we were in Wunwell, which is where I grew up, which is a village in Barnsley for people that are not familiar. And there used to be a little bakery on there, and me and my friends used to go there on his bikes before we'd go to school. And this bigger kid come out, told my friend to move his bike out of the way so he could get out the door. I've just been a knob for no reason, basically. And he kicked my friend's bike and said, "Oh, my foot must have slipped." Don't know what come over me.
Oh dear.
I just kicked his bike that he was on and went, "Oops, my foot must have slipped." And he got up off his bike and he just gave me a left straight to the face. Knocked me straight to the floor and then just kept kicking me.
Oh wow. Flipping heck.
And But at that time I was thinking, why did I do that? And I don't know why I did it, because I thought there were no way that I would like ever win.
No.
Like poking a bull and then saying, I'm going to stand here
with my red flag.
Yeah, I've just painted myself red here. Like there were nothing I would have been able to do to follow it up after kicking him.
Run.
Yeah. So yeah. And then that was another similar situation where for years and years I used to think, oh, I've seen this kid about and I'm a grown up now.
Yeah.
Well, I might go. No, I'm not going to go and lamp him. No, it's just stupid. He probably don't even know. He wouldn't even know I were.
No.
I know what he looks like in my mind. I know his name. He probably never even knew my name. But it's weird how that kid's gone through life.
Yeah.
Just getting on with it. He probably does that all the time.
Yeah. No, totally.
But that stuck with me. I'll probably remember that till my dying day, next week. So.
And you're right, because like that stuck with you for so many years. He doesn't know that affected your life. To what extent, doesn't matter. For some portion of your life, it affected it. And it's terrible when you look at it like that.
Yeah. See, that one, compared to the other one I just told you about, I don't feel any anger with that.
Yeah.
I just laugh at it now.
Yeah.
I think it's because I brought it on myself for sticking up for my friend, trying to be the do-gooder.
Yeah.
And for some reason now I laugh about it.
Yeah.
So maybe I have kind of detached the emotion from that one, because there were a time where it used to make me angry for a long time.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't at all. It's just a stupid thing, and I've mentioned it to a few people when people talk about getting a kick in when you're younger. So, but yeah. But the other one, I've not obviously not detached that one yet, because I can't see any part of it where I start laughing about it. I just still keep thinking, well, if I knew which car you got now, I would knock your wing mirror off. And I hope it's one of them expensive Lambos.
Yeah, no.
Probably not in Woolwell. Not that people in Woolwell can't afford them, but I don't think it'd stay in the same spot for long enough.
No, I know.
It'd be gone.
Even horses are on wheels. No, you're right though. You're totally right. And I think people must learn to detach over time eventually, because they either learn to detach or they repress it deeply. Like you described some of your mates who talk about it after a few drinks.
Yeah.
Well, it's not resolved.
Yeah.
Or they won't give a damn. Because when I was first going through my traumas, and there were lots of stuff, there were lots of deep stuff, I used to get upset. I used to be really angry, I used to be really ill. And now I can sit and laugh about it all. So I know that 99% of my traumas are resolved. And it took me chuffing a long time to do it. And I'm quite content. And the thing is, I think you realise that when you're quite happy with who you are. Yeah. So I went through lots of years not being able to look in the mirror, hating how I talked, hating how I looked. Like, hate's a horrible word. I'll never use it nowadays. There's some people in my life who I should hate, but I don't. Because I'm quite happy with who I am.
Yeah. And
what I do and how I treat people. And I think hate's a horrible word now.
Yeah. I think a lot of people go through that, and I imagine probably even more so now than ever before. It's like this last 20 years, because society kind of like dictates how you should look, what the perfect body is for a man, for a woman, how your face should look, and stuff like that. And I think there's like there's this unnecessary pressure to look and be a certain way when you should just be, just exist, And I've started, it's only been quite recent that I've got to a point where I'm just like, I'm not in the best shape that I've been in. I've been in better shape than this, I've lost my hair. I'm a bit more armchair shaped than I used to be. I'm probably quite comfortable to lay on, so whereas there were times where I probably did look better, but I probably hated myself more. And I've just got to a point where I'm like, I don't really care. It's not obviously I want to be a reasonable shape and feel good, not just from like a vain aspect, but from a kind of just for a health kind of thing as well. and just fitting into certain clothes I'd bought that obviously I don't want to throw away. And
Oh,
stuff
no.
like that.
I'm going to save an exercise.
Yeah, and yeah, so and I think there's people that they just constantly worry about it to the point, like I used to do it, and you're talking about like looking in the mirror and stuff. I can remember look at school, like, and then looking in the mirror, like before I go to school, and you're a bit weird when you're a teenager anyway, because you're still growing, aren't you? And it's like my ears and my nose and my lips and my teeth all look too big for my head, and then my head grew into them. You know, it grew that much. It grew through my hair, so. I still think I've got quite big lips, but I feel like I'm a bit Mick Jagger in that sense. But you know, but I'm not bothered. I'm just and sometimes like people like they'll try. You know, when people obviously, it's normally when you, not so much. I would say like groups of friends, like because we're kind of past to a certain degree of just taking the piss out of each other image wise. Apart from me and the guys in FAHRAN, one of my bands, we still have these moments every now and then, but it's all in jest. It's like, you know. We insult each other because we love each other. That's what we say. but I think like if like a stranger or someone when I'm on stage or whatever tries to criticise the way I am or the way I look, I just kind of think, well, I'm happy. I don't care. I don't look like Brad Pitt and I don't look like Johnny Depp or whoever, or Jack Grealish, all these different people that people may see as like the most perfect male. But I'm not bothered. I'm like, because I'd rather look like me than you, the person that's insulting me. You know,
of course.
You know, and I think there's a lot of this people putting people down, which that stays with people. You know, it might be something that they I've got a better car than you. Oh, I feel shit because he's got a better car than me. Oh, he's got a better jawline than me. Oh, that person's got a six-pack. That person's got a bigger house or whatever. You know, or they've got this expensive thing that I ain't got, or their partner's better than than mine is, or whatever, that type of situation. And I think a lot of that stuff, it stays with people. Some people it's just water off a duck's back. They just get on with it. Just go, oh, shut up, no bed. You know, but then there's points where people they will like just they're soaking it in, but sometimes they don't even realise that they're soaking it in.
They won't.
I've done it with things before, especially through my 20s. I would lots of people like, because I mean, probably by my own fault, I'd put myself out there, you know, gigs wise, lots of pictures and videos on the internet, doing all these things. And I still do it now, but I'll do it in a more kind of controlled way. You know, like obviously I talk about quite a lot of personal things on these podcasts, but it's only parts of things that I wish to share with people that I'm comfortable.
Yes.
And if people want to say something positive about it, or they want to rip it to shreds, then fair enough, because I've already just decided that that's what I wanted to do. I've wanted to share that information, you know. So, but there's you would always get like lots of backlash, because obviously the more people that you're exposed to, which I was in my 20s, I was like doing lots of things. There's always going to be a percentage of people that don't like what you do.
Of course there is.
But then there's a percentage of those that want to tell you as well. Like, there's a lot of things I see on the internet all the time. There's all sorts of stuff going on in like the music scenes, that the little communities that I'm in for different things that I do, and there's always like awful stuff going on sometimes, and then just drama and things. And I just choose not to get involved. Or even if sometimes people, like, I don't know, someone releases a new song, it happens to you go on any famous band YouTube page, wherever they've brought a new single out, there'll be lots of people saying they love it, and then loads of people on there who are not even fans of the band, just saying how much they hate it, which to them it's probably just thinking, well, I'm just saying this, but I mean, I imagine some of these bands, they're probably that big, they're not even reading it. True. But there's people out there, they do read stuff, and they do take it in, they take on board and take it personal, and they think, well, there must be something for them to be saying that about me, you know, that kind of thing. And it's especially when you're at a smaller level.
Of course,
and not even people like talking about musicians, just day to day. If someone's, it's almost like a form of bullying to a certain degree. It's like, because, you know, they always say that when you're a kid, it's like, oh, if you haven't got anything nice to say, don't say anything. Oh, well, but people do. No one listened to that part. They still feel the need to talk to each other in certain ways. They go, oh, hey, up, fatty, or blah, blah, blah. And they talk to each other like you know, it might just be a little comical thing to them in their mind.
Yeah.
It's quite childish in a way, but it's, you don't know what that's doing to that person there, you know, that, and if they're in and out multiple times throughout the year, you know, what state is their mental health in, and what's going through their mind right now? Are they believing all the things that these random people are saying to them, little comments and stuff? And I think people that like I said, more so the people in the public eye, you get, we've seen it, haven't we? I can't remember what the woman was called. It was about 4 years ago. She was there was like a domestic violence situation, and I think she'd like hit a partner or hit him with an object in the house. People hounded her to a point where she committed suicide. I cannot remember her name.
I know what you mean.
Because my brain's rubbish. There's that much information going. But
was it Caroline Flack?
That's the one. Yeah. And they, you know, that's someone who you would, you know, she like a public figure that you would think, well, they're used to being out there and getting multiple types of feedback, you know, whether it be positive stuff, negative stuff, or whatever. But clearly, she's reading that stuff.
Of course.
Because it's obviously affecting. And like you said, some people just go like, oh, everyone's just like, you know, making funny comments, I don't care, whatever. But when people saying all these horrible things to you, there's going to come a point where people, they do believe what is being thrown at them. And I think, like you said, it's similar to situation to those twins. It's like some people just, they're going to handle it completely different one to the other. But everyone jumps on everyone, doesn't it? The moment it happens, like, you know, you've got all these different celebrities, your Philip Schofields and stuff like that. All this, it's like, regardless of what you think about whatever these different situations are that's going on, should it be allowed really for everyone to just kind of like hit him like a tidal wave? You know, if you've got thousands and thousands of insults coming, because like when we were kids, it's like your safe spot with the house, wasn't it? If you were being bullied or whatever, you would come home. Nobody can get me. That's it. Now, straight on the internet, bombarding you. You know, and I saw it when I was working in care with young people. If they had a fallout with certain friends, or they treat them awful at school, then they'd have to like kind of keep them out of the way in the playground and stuff like that. And then it'd get to a point where they'd come back and they'd be crying because there's 20 people sending them all awful messages, telling them horrible things, kill yourself, you're this, you're that, blah, blah, blah. And then they're blocking them, and then they're setting up different accounts, because you can do it in 5 minutes, can't you? You set up an email and then a Facebook account or whatever, you know, whatever, Instagram and that stuff like that. And it's just, there should be something that we could put in place to clamp down on it, to filter it, but then how do you police it, you know? It's because it's a free platform.
Of course it is,
Well, it's free in the sense that it doesn't cost you money, but it costs you your privacy and your data and your behaviours. So obviously they're gathering which is obviously what they're using to make the money, isn't it? Because they sell to have like sponsored adverts to you and things like that. But yeah, there must be something put in place, like some kind of law where it has to be that if this type of thing has been highlighted, it's happening to somebody, it needs to be shut down, because it happens so often now. There's so many people of all ages that just they end up taking their own lives, or because there is no safe space anymore. No. You aren't safe unless you live on an island with no internet connection. You know, you're not immune to it, basically.
No, and I think obviously it's worse when it's the most vulnerable. I can't even say the word vulnerable parts in people's lives, like as teenagers, especially. Now, teenagers are going to take it on board probably a lot more than someone who might be a bit older and wiser. Still hurts, you know, it's still horrible. I think one of the positives to remember, although you've got to train yourself to do it, is the fact that when somebody does that kind of thing, although it's not nice and it can be extremely horrible, they are just projecting how they feel. And they are projecting something that they've unresolved in themselves. So if you start to, I know obviously this takes time, you know, and learning, But if you start to look at things like that, rather than you thinking, oh my God, they're saying this about me, it must be true. If you start to think, well, this is how they feel about themselves, this is not nice, but they're going through that emotion, leave them to it.
Yeah.
It's not about me, it's about them. Because everything is about, if I walk around calling people names online, that means I'm hurting inside. Because normal people, people don't go around doing that.
Yeah.
Unless they've got something, what's unresolved.
Yeah.
Because happy people don't do that.
Yeah, I see it on all sorts of different things. Like during lockdowns, me and Libby were putting on kind of random acoustic videos, just because obviously we'd got the time because we were at home to do it, so we were doing all that type of stuff. And then like I can recall like a random American guy he put some negative comment about something we put on, and I put something a bit sarcastic in a way saying that we were accepting his comment, but you know, obviously I just thought it was a load of crap, which angered him. Yeah. And then he spent about an hour and a half going on all different platforms that we were on, just bombarding us with hate and commenting on everything. I clearly not had time to even watch these videos, but just going on to it, insult. And I thought, wow. And I thought, well, I'm not worried about me in this situation because I'm not a problem in the world, right?
Well, exactly. Exactly. And sometimes you think, I've got to the point where I feel sorry for them to an extent. Yeah. But they're still a knobhead.
Oh,
for even doing it in the first place. I don't care what's gone off. A decent human
There is
being.
no professional term for it, is there?
No. And I think we both know that the industry that we're in, well, not me so much nowadays. I'm in the back, behind the scenes, but the music industry, is full of that many egos, that many insecurities. That's why that industry is probably so much worse than any other, because it's renowned for it.
Oh yeah.
You know, and we have to learn to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, over the long term, because lots of different reasons, but a lot of people go into performance because they feel insecure. Not everyone. You know, obviously everyone goes in for different reasons, but some people go into be a performer because they feel insecure and they want to be seen in the world, they want to be heard in the world, and that's just their way of doing it. So there's lots of insecurities there.
Yeah. And
then when people are insecure and they start firing at other people, and I believe that we've got to be of a sensitive nature. More when we're creatives, we're more sensitive anyway, to an extent. So we feel it a lot more. So we'll fire back. Yeah. You know, so it is a vicious circle. It's fascinating. Human nature is fascinating.
I see it with even bands that's like at the same level that we're on with FAHRAN, and it's like they'll put their heart and soul into everything, and they'll release a song or an album, and then there's a couple of people that start commenting, saying some awful things that probably a bit unnecessary, because if you don't like it, just don't watch it and don't comment on it, you know. Yes. But obviously, I mean, I welcome constructive criticism and things like that, but I've seen where people have put stuff on people's videos just being awful to them, and it's obviously struck a nerve, and then rather than just kind of fobbing it off or making a bit of a joke out of them, they've come back full throttle, you know, being very defensive about what they've done, because like you say, it means a lot to them, because some people, it's not just knocking a few chords together and some generic lyrics. Some people have wrote about some really personal things, and or they've got a message or whatever it might be. So yeah, I think it is a weird industry, because obviously every industry, people like their ego stroked. There's a lot of greed. There's a lot of corruption to a certain degree. But I think the music industry definitely has a kind of exaggerated version of that, because it's so there's so many people out there that they do think that they're in place and the world just spins around them. And it's quite a rude awakening for quite a few people, and they don't handle it very well. Again, another situation that things that they believe to be true, and then suddenly it's not. They don't always know how to...
Breaks the world.
Yeah, they don't know how to behave and communicate with people afterwards, which I've seen loads of times. You know, people that acting like they think, well, I'm going to be the biggest rock star in the world, blah, 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 whatever it may be. And then that doesn't happen. And then obviously, might not be through any fault of their own, because they might be very good, but you could be amazing, but just if it's not, sometimes you need a lot of luck, and things need to be in the right place at the right time. They don't know how to accept that situation.
Nope.
And they start getting, I think a lot of us as musicians, we just start getting like kind of old and bitter to a certain degree, because we're just like, oh, I've missed that opportunity, or that chance, and or why has that band got that, and we're working just as hard. It's not happened for us, And I speak to loads of musicians and across like the scene I'm on, where there's bands that they'll send us messages and they're saying, "Well, we wish we could get to a point you're at," and I'm thinking, well, when I look at the point we're at, it's not where I want to be. I want to be at the point that they're at over there. But then they're aiming, everyone's always aiming for something a bit higher.
Yeah.
And I think you can sometimes kind of get a little bit blinkered and forget how far you have come doing certain things, because I see stuff where there's bands where nobody's following anything, no one's buying anything that they've got, no one's coming to see them. Some of them can't even get gigs and things like that. And we're lucky enough to be in a position where we've got all those things. Obviously not at the same level like Taylor Swift's at, or anything like that, but we've got a small community of people that we've built up over time in loads of different areas, and they do come and support us. And I think I probably fell victim of that at one point, because I was like, oh, I'm not achieving this, I'm not achieving that. It's like, but we have done something so far, and we're not done. We've got lots of stuff to do yet. We've still got new stuff coming out, gigs coming up, and things like that. And it's like you say, it's a journey. There's no, oh, I've done it now. No, I've completed the game. It doesn't work that way. Clearly, when you've got musicians who are still touring in their 80s,
of course, we're loving it.
And they've already, AC/DC's back out on the road again.
Yeah.
You could technically say they've won the game, because they've already done it all. Everybody knows who they are. Yeah. Even people that don't even like rock music, they know AC/DC songs. They know they've got the image or Angus and things like that. They know it all. So they've become a household brand. So they don't have to keep doing it. But obviously you do it because you enjoy it. So it's just nice if you can see some progression along the way. But I suppose that, like I say, that works in any industry. Say you've got these people that they get the office job and they work their way up. If that's what they wanted to do,
amazing.
Then brilliant. I'm jealous really that they could jump into something that is supported as a natural progression from school. Because no one, and I talked about this with Miranda as well. We talked about you're not kind of pushed into creative industries, and if you do choose those paths, it's not easy, because if someone goes like, "Oh, I'm doing a expressive arts degree," and people go, because they go, "What are you going to do then afterwards? You're going to work at Tesco or Aldi?" It's like, people are horrible about it all. Like, people want to, you've got the talented people that can do all these different things. They're not supported. It almost becomes a bit of a joke. They're like, "So what are you going to do for a proper job then when that all falls through?" And that's what people do when they talk about it with music and stuff. They don't see it as like it's a proper thing. It's like, but all these people, whether it be music or art or or like shows and stuff like that, whatever it is, they're all providing some kind of service, because people need stuff to do on a weekend. They want to come out and watch entertainment. People pay money to see this. You've still got bands filling up stadiums right now. I know that they're saying that like gig circuits on its arse and stuff, and some parts of it are, but there's still others that are really thriving. So people clearly want it.
Yeah.
So why are we not kind of supporting people to go for these things? It's I mean, when we were talking about people that can they'll still kind of chase the dream / or whatever the passion is, despite all these restrictions of being told you have to get a proper job and you've got bills and blah 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 and all that stuff. But it's like, but they despite of all that, they still push through and get to a position where even if they're just earning what someone in a normal office job is earning, alongside, and but they're doing what they love.
Yep.
Why are they not encouraged to do so? I don't know. I don't know why. It just really winds me up.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few ways you can look at it, I guess. Like, do the government well, we've always been conditioned, haven't we, you know, from being kids, and our parents were, and our grandparents probably were. They've got to get a 9-to-5 job, got to do this, got to do that, got to do the other. And it was never really talked about, well, like, definitely not in my house. It'd be great to start a business.
Yeah, that never gets meant.
No.
I mean, I think they might do it now, who knows, but they never did that when I was at school.
No.
Not an option. You either go to university, you get a trade, or if you can't get any of those, then just go and find yourself some minimum wage job somewhere.
Of course, yeah.
See you later.
Yeah.
We're done with you. That's it, That's it, Our obigations have been met.
Careers jobs back in 80s were amazing, weren't they, in 90s? Which one of these do you want to do? Go and do it now.
Yeah. Well,
choose from these 10.
Yeah, well, that's it. They're just it was just ridiculous. I mean, when I was at school, it's like they never really like talked about anything. We had like one person who was a careers advisor, and I think I saw her once for about 10 minutes, and it was just during the work experience setup, and they were like, "Oh well, right from these industries here, what you would like to do," and I was like, "Oh, I was good at drawing at school, and I was like, I like to draw, and graphic design. Yeah, I'd like to be a graphic designer or an illustrator." And then I was putting all these different things in. Could have just sent me to any little publishing place or whatever, stuff like that. They put me down and went, "Oh, Matt, you're going on a farm." Right, 'cause that's similar, isn't it? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. How do you right bugger off in cow shit? So I turned it down, and I went and just went and worked in my dad's factory. I thought, well, if I'm going to go and do something that I don't want to do, I might as well go and help my dad.
Of course, yeah. No. It's I think it takes a certain kind of person, definitely. I can see why there's a less percentage of people doing it, because it takes a certain kind of person to go against sometimes the family, sometimes the friends, and say, I am doing this no matter what. And I'm still there to an extent. Being self-employed, not getting paid when you don't work, driving towards what you want, but when will you ever get there? When will you be the coach that's made it? When will you be the therapist that's made it? When is your lifestyle your lifestyle? Do you know what I mean? When is your lifestyle how you want it to be? Who knows? You could go on forever. So there is no end goal. Well, I guess there's always an end goal, but there's no fixed path. And I'm blabbering a bit, but what I'm trying to say is, I've lost my train of thought now. What was I saying?
We were talking about like obviously like that kind of that aim, that target. What is your goal with it? Obviously you've got your day-to-day, weekly, monthly goals of helping people along the way. But what is the long-term kind of goal for you and the business?
I think I do think about this a lot, and I focused in quite recently. I do believe that I can imagine a lifestyle where I want to travel much more. I want to be in a position where I can run the business from being able to whilst travelling, because obviously it can be a laptop lifestyle. I can do it from a laptop. I can do it for coaching from a laptop. I want to be able to see more of the world. I want to be able to support my family. My girlfriend, she can do whatever she decides to do. Money worries fade into the background, because I've got to the level where it's not such a worry anymore. It's not a concern. So then we can decide what to do. I do have a vision of maybe one day living abroad, somewhere hot, because I don't like cold weather. I can't stand English
That's our
winters.
plan.
Yeah.
I'll see you there.
And obviously, we've got like young kids between us, so maybe it's a bit further down the line. But the vision's definitely there, and the more I think about it, the more it makes sense, because we want to see the world. We both want to see the world. Myself and my girlfriend, we both want to travel. We both want to do nice things, but it's more about having a choice rather than being a multimillionaire. It's like, should we go on holiday next week for 2 weeks? So you've got to have a really good income, but it's not about the money.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It's about the freedom and being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. So that is a plan. That is a loose goal. And I don't like, when I work with people, I never work with people in terms of fixed goals. Like some people will say, I want to win £1 million, but in 2 years' time, whatever. Yeah. And it's like, if people don't hit that, then they're like, oh, I'm a failure.
Yeah.
You know, so I never like to work.
Pressure.
Yeah, of course it is. So I don't like to work in goals like that. But what I want to do is like know my direction, know where I'm aiming for. So if I don't necessarily live in the place that I want to live in, it's not a failure. It's just an amendment.
Yeah.
You know, rather than saying I've got to earn £2 million in 2 years' time.
Yeah, it's like I mentioned earlier on about the band situation. It's you might not be as far up the ladder as you want to be, but it's just acknowledging the fact that you have gone up a couple of steps.
Yes.
You might have wanted to go up 5, but you've gone up 2, but at least you've not gone down, you know. You haven't gone down a snake.
No. Start again from scratch. But
which is fine. That does happen, doesn't it? Obviously, like you say, people lose homes, they have divorces, the redundancies and things like that, whatever it is, and they do rebuild. But it's just, you know, making sure that you dust yourself off and just crack on again. Because I've seen people who have had really like terrible past things that's gone on, and they've been in really like awful situations where they've been struggling, especially financially and things like that, and they've managed to rebuild to really good positions. And I suppose it's having that drive and that mindset, and not just being sitting there and just going, focusing on the bad stuff, thinking about, well, what can I do right now? You know, how can I make things better in 6 months from now?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in that situation many a time, and I failed many a time. But you look at the greats in the world. I'm not saying I'm one of the greats, but you know, you look at the greats in the world, and you have to have failure consistently. One, for all the lessons. It's never a failure, it's a lesson. Always. 2, if you don't fail, how do you know what succeeding is? Because it's duality, you know, you can't have one without the other. So you get to see the difference. But every big entrepreneur, every big business owner has failed multiple times. Bankruptcy, things failing, things not going right, all these lessons. Nobody that I know of, from all the big names, has ever had a plain sailing route. Because then we wouldn't know what failure is. Yeah.
Well, you see a lot of these millionaires and billionaires. Yeah, there's some people that have been put in nice situations. It may have been passed down from family,
totally.
or you know, they're in more fortunate kind of circumstances. But then there are people that have started from scratch who they've failed multiple times. Some of the biggest businesses in the world that have been built up, and they've maybe had 10 businesses before that have all just fallen flat, and they just keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. Well, eventually the probability is going to be on your side if you keep trying, unless you're just completely useless and don't know what you're doing. But
this is the thing, you know, there's the kind of reality check that you need sometimes. But if you know that you are good, if you know that you've got external validation, people saying that you're not just your family and friends, you're a great singer.
The best son in the world.
If you've got that validation, and you've got testimonials in my case, and the work's working for a start, then you know that if you keep on that path, it has to work out to an extent.
Yeah.
If you stopped, how the fuck can it work out? You know what I mean?
Well, you're never going to know, are you?
No, exactly.
Yeah.
You might not get everything that you want to achieve, but you get more than if you don't do it.
Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of people that I imagine are, kind of approaching retirement age, and some people get to that position where they, brilliant, I've hit the target that I wanted, I can now put my feet up, my house is paid off, I can travel, if my knees will take it and stuff like that. That's the thing that worries me. I don't want to wait till I'm old.
No.
Because one, you might never get there, and 2, are you going to be in a position physically to actually go out and do the things you want to do? Like we want to go. There's all sorts of stuff on our list, like more backpacking type stuff, and we want to do like Himalayas and Nepal and all this stuff. And I'm like, I can't do that when I'm like 75.
No.
Sometimes I
can't get out of my car, and it's because it's an Audi TT, and it's like sometimes like, oh,
It's true. It's true.
Like,
Yeah.
I worked too hard at gym 2 days ago. Now I can't get out of my car. So I'm like, how am I going to climb a mountain? So I don't want to wait till I'm older when I'm already like, when you feel it every now and then in your 30s and your 40s and things like that. So it's, I don't want to. Just obviously, you do that planning for the future, but I don't want to just assume that it's there.
Of course, no.
So, it's but there's people that they work obviously all their life, and sometimes they don't achieve that where they go, oh, I've got that pension pot that I wanted, and I've got. They might not have got anything. They might come out of it the other end thinking, well, probably should work for an extra 5 years after the official retirement age, and they're living their final years with that regret of, I wanted to start a business, or I wanted to do this, or I wanted to be a writer, or whatever it might be, but they've just never done it, and that is one of my biggest fears.
Yes.
Of at least if I get to that age and I haven't achieved all the things I want to achieve, but I've tried.
Yep.
I can't live with the regret that I never tried.
No, of course not.
So, I mean, not that I'd be living very long with that regret, because I'd be old and probably not have many years left. So I'd only have a few years left of worrying about it. But I just think I want to at least try and give my best for the things that I do. So, and I don't want to be that person, that even if I come out at the other end and I've got nothing, I mean, we're fortunate, we're lucky, we've got this little house, we've got all the bits and bobs that we've got and stuff, but I think I want to have more than that. I don't really care about like the house situation and all that type of stuff. Yeah, it's nice to have a pension pot, or these things that you can kind of dip into and rely on, or you've got a house as a bit of a backup if you needed to, like I say, move abroad. You can, when you sell up, you've got something to help you move somewhere. But there's other things in life more than just obviously having a house and a pension pot. And I think it's like I say, it's enjoying that journey to that point. It's like you can't work as an artist for 30 years when you get to 75, 80, when you've finished work, because you probably might not be at your best then. You might have a shaky hand. You might not really be able to look after yourself for the back end of that. So you've got to do it all. Well, I sound really cheesy, but you've got to do it all while you're younger and you're able, and you've got the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
So them older years aren't always promised. God, we've just like, I can't help myself. We just keep going so like dark and.
Well, I don't think. Yeah, I think it's important stuff, isn't it?
Keep acknowledging, like, give up now. Stop it.
Let's be happy again.
Yeah. Think about bunny rabbits, flowers.
I think it's definitely a dividing line between living for the now, and preparing for the future.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get right. And some people will work themselves to death, and I sometimes am guilty of that.
Yeah.
No, not to death, but working too much, and
to burn out. Definitely.
Yeah, and I'm much better than I used to be nowadays. But I think you've got to be willing to live for the now, but at the same time, because I looked at my pension pot the other week, because I'm self-employed now, and I've not really thought about it as much as when I was employed, and you automatically pay into a pension and whatever, and I thought, shit, I need to do something more. So I'm looking at expanding into other things now. So you still have to prepare for the future. Is there a right balance? I don't know. As long as you're doing what makes you happy and what you want to try, and do the things or aim for the things that you want to do. You might not necessarily do everything. Then is that the best that we can do?
Yeah,
probably.
I think for me, like, I've got this little part that's like makes me feel safe, that when I get to those older years, I'm not really going to stop doing everything that I do, because obviously I don't do music because my brain sees it as work. Like we said, it's because I love doing it. Yeah. So I wouldn't just go, oh, I've got to 70 now, I'm going to stop. Like if you've worked as a bricklayer from 16 and you get to 75, you think, oh God, thank God I ain't got to get up and do that in the morning. Which, I mean, maybe you do enjoy it, but it's probably really hard work. especially as you get older. And then they're probably thinking, well, maybe I ain't got enough money to stop or live the life that I want to live for the next, 10, 20, 30 years, whatever it might be. But for me, like, if I can still hold a note and still play a guitar and I'm older, I will still be doing it regardless of what age I am. If I get into my 70s or whatever, fingers crossed if I get that far, but it's like I will still be doing it, and I'll still go out and play gigs and stuff like that. I'm not just gonna like wash my hands of it and go, well, that's me, just sit at home with a book now. I'm not gonna do it. No. Obviously I might do that a bit more, but I'd have something to keep me ticking over, as a backup, because I've got that income from something that I love, which I feel really, really fortunate to have that, because not everybody can. Like I say, they may not have something else as a bit of a not quite a side hustle, but something that they can do that they enjoy doing after work is supposed to finish.
No, you're right. I can't remember if it was a study I read or something like that. When men hit retirement age, if they haven't got something in their lives what they love to do, and say for example you talk about the labourer and they finish work and that's it, and they sit there and they're like, what do I do with my life now? It can have dramatic effects on the mental health, to the point of, I think it was like early death, early mortality increases, if people haven't got anything to focus on. Whereas if you work without a kind of finish date, and you're like, I don't have to retire, I can just carry on, do the thing that I love, changes everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely changes everything.
My brain's just like, I should be talking, but I'm just thinking about all this stuff. It's a shame that you can't just see what I'm thinking. But yeah.
90 years old in care home, playing for everyone.
I used to be in a band, Of course you did, Matt. Yeah. Anyway, just get that mashed potato off your beard.
Oh, classic. Oh, there's a thought.
So, we're talking about those kind of obstacles and stuff like that. What are the typical obstacles that you're a common client for you would have? Like, what do you hear on a regular basis from them? Obviously, don't mention any names.
No. I mean, yeah. So, a big one. Well, I'll come back to it because it's not often thought of, but it's an important one. So, it's about money. So quite often, I'll speak to business owners who might be flying, but they don't put the price up, or they worry about what people think about them, or they have an issue with money. Because quite often, like working class people, I know some of my grandparents were like, money don't grow on trees, the rich people are horrible, the rich people are evil, and as a youngster, you think, oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You don't question it. So as we go through life, obviously we learn that's not always the case, by any stretch of the imagination, but we've held these deep beliefs. And what people don't realise is this can have dramatic effects on your income levels. So when I'm helping business owners, and they're struggling, why can't I make more money? Why can't I earn this extra 50 grand? Whatever. What's stopping me? Well, it's something, what you've not resolved, what you've held on to, and you are getting in your own way. Now, people are like, what the fuck are you going on about? How does that make sense? But when you explain the science and when you explain what's happening, like sort of what I'm doing today, but maybe on a deeper level, they're like, well, yeah, that makes sense. And then you do the work, and then you start to see them transforming, and they can go out and charge double, as an example, without worrying what people think, without... It's a lot of it's about self-esteem, I guess. Everything boils down to, am I good enough? Everything.
Yeah.
Smoking, drinking, workaholics, procrastination, all boils down to, am I worthy enough?
Yeah. Well, you've got to have that confidence in your own abilities, haven't you, to
Yeah.
To go a bit further. And it's weird when you're talking about the like the things that you hear, obviously back when you're younger. Like whenever I was a kid and there was like someone who clearly got a lot of money or appeared to have a lot of money, adults around me would always go, "Not bad," you know. So, you know, which obviously came from a part of jealousy at the same time, I imagine, you know. So you kind of grow up just thinking that all, like you said, that all rich people are just evil and horrible because they must have done something horrible to get that money. That's how it's kind of like embedded in your brain when you're younger from like a working class kind of person. So like myself. So it's like, yeah. Whereas then you see people who are, you know, I think it's because there's different types, isn't there? Like obviously you've got the self-made, which are a bit more appreciative of the situation.
Yes.
They're very grateful for what they've managed to achieve. And then you've got people that are kind of like born into certain things. And I'm not saying that because that every person who was born into a rich family is a knobhead, because they're not. Because I know some people who have got rich families and they're lovely people, but there are certain ones that the like you said, it can change you, and becoming aware that, oh, we've got this money behind us, it makes people behave in a certain way.
Of course it does.
And I think I've seen it in kids who are very aware that they've got lots of money and they're getting dropped off at school in like a 70 grand Range Rover, and then they're seeing so-and-so's getting bus and they feel the need to take the piss out of them for it, which is obviously, you know, that's another issue altogether. But then you get people who they've grown up with nothing, and sometimes, like I said, there's one side of the coin, they grow up and they become so grateful for the situation, and they're still a very down-to-earth normal person, and then you get the ones that they change, and it almost does make them, like, I wouldn't say evil, but obviously some people, they do go down that path because they want more and they find ways of creating more money. But then you just get the odd one that's just I just want to show off with my new car and my new watch, and that's all I'm bothered about.
Of course, you'll always get that. It's like when we're told when we see someone rich when we're young, and maybe someone's telling us, "Oh, you've got to work hard to get that." Bullshit. If that was the case, every nurse and doctor would be millionaires.
Yeah.
You know, there is no other way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Money doesn't equate to time. Money equates to value, and we're never told that. No, we don't learn that. We just think, oh God, I've got to work really hard to get that. Then we work harder and harder and harder, and we burn out. So I could work every hour of every single day for the rest of my life and never be a billionaire.
Yeah.
Ever. So it's like, well, what did they do differently?
Yeah.
To become a billionaire? Because it's not hard work. Because, as we know, every nurse would be a millionaire.
Yeah. Well, you talk about say a bricklayer. They obviously work hard. They're looking stuff around all day. They come back knackered every Friday, and they could do that until retirement age and never be any further than you know. They paid the bills. Yeah, you have some nice holidays. You have some you get car every now and then. Blah blah blah. Do your house up a little bit, a few nights out, and that's all you're able to do with that situation, which is how most people live. So it's thinking, well, how can I change that using the skills that I've got? So I've got. Well, I can build an house. Right, I need to get hold of some kind of investment or a loan, and I'm going to build an house, and then I'm going to sell it on, and obviously make a lot more money, you know, or go in with other tradesmen. Let's build some properties together. You know, we're all going to put a little bit in, whether you take a bit of equity out your own house, you get a loan, whatever it might be, you might save up, and then it might only be a small benefit after each one, but it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then by the time they've done 10, 15, 20 years of this, they're in a position where, cool, the next 3 houses, I'm not building them. Someone else is building them, and I'm just going to fund it and then get the rewards. So it's just doing. Obviously, it's a very simple situation and plan that I've just rolled out there, but that works in anything. You know, it's just like you said, thinking outside the box and just going, well, rather than just turning up and doing what I've been asked to do, I'm going to do something with these skills along the way. And it's going to be scary and it's going to be hard, and there's probably going to be a lot of tears and a lot of swearing.
100%.
You know, it's not going to be an easy task.
No, it's
not. But it's the only way to break out of that bubble.
It is. Nothing worth doing is easy, ever. You know, and it's only recently that I've looked into the power of investing and thought about, okay, I've got to do something else. Coaching is time. Coaching can be paid by outcome, but coaching can be time for money. Yeah. So we can only work so many hours. So what else can I do? Well, if I invest my money, it starts to grow. And my own regret is not starting when I was 16.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be a multi-millionaire by now, and none of these worries. But I didn't, you know, and it's better realising it now than when I'm 65.
Well, yeah. Because there is still time there to grow some kind of pot and things like that.
Of course there is. Yeah, yeah. But that was a big realisation. 100%. Learning about money. And I'm no expert by any means, but I've learnt enough to know what to start doing.
Yeah.
And it's to get away from that time for money factor, because everyone's doing it. And everyone's going to have a nice lifestyle and maybe not plan for the future and maybe not have anything when they're older.
Yeah.
You know?
Like I say, it's putting things in place that can earn you money without you putting that time in. So you're not working it out as an hourly rate. You're just working out what you've set up, the time you put in, and then there might be a little ripple effect of multiple income streams.
Oh, of course there is.
So.
Yeah, everyone needs multiple income streams. Everybody. You know, like if I'm working on it right now, but if I was just relying on coaching and I had to go into hospital for 2 weeks or even longer, you know, I'd be like, oh, there's a problem there.
Yeah.
You know, and investing assets is a big one. It doesn't always have to be houses. Doesn't always have to be property. I mean, I'm creating online programs now, which eventually will sell into the future without any input from me.
Yeah.
You know, so that's an asset, even though it's it is an asset. You know,
it is. Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's a product that you've already done the hard slog. You've built it.
Yeah.
Which is, again, that's the part that puts people off. It's the starting up of things. They worry about the time they're going to put in, and then they're worried that there's going to be no reward for it.
Of course.
But obviously, if it does, I mean, that could pick up to a point where there could be hundreds, thousands of people joining that program for years and years to come.
Absolutely.
To a point where, I mean, obviously you do the coaching as well because you enjoy it, but that could put you in a position where you might not have to do the coaching as well. But you know, there's so many different things that you could do.
100%, and it's all about, I think, nothing. Look at like Warren Buffett, one of the richest investors in the world, or one of the richest men in the world. And I was reading a book not long ago, and it talked about most of his investments lose money. And you think, oh, hold on a minute, he's best investor in the world, you know. But the investments what he chooses that do really well offset the losses by so much and earn so much more. So there's always that balance.
Yeah.
So even the best investors in the world get it wrong most of the time. And it only takes out once to get it right.
Yeah.
To be where you want to be.
So you've got to throw a lot of shit for some of it to stick, haven't you? So.
Exactly. And but I think
which is not quite a nice way of saying it compared to how you were describing it, but
no, it's true. It's true.
Equally as effective.
Yeah, no. And I think everybody wants everything yesterday.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we live in a society, nobody is willing. Like I keep using the same example. Warren Buffett made most of his money when he was 80. You know, like his income curve goes along and then goes boom. So he was a millionaire when he was young, but he's like obviously a multi-billionaire now. But money has to take time to build up, and we think, oh, by next week I've not earned that grand, then something wrong with me.
Yeah.
But it might be that we earn nothing for 3 years when we start a business, and we're like, is this going to work?
Yeah.
You know, and most businesses fail in the first 2 or 3 years. Probably, well, one of the reasons is that they don't see what's coming.
Yeah, they give up, don't they?
Yeah.
Before. Yeah, it's the same with everything, isn't it? We'll flip that back over to when we're talking about music. It's the same with bands.
Yes.
It's like, it's very rare that anyone kind of blows up overnight, whether you're a musician, whether you've got a business, whatever it is that you're doing. You know, there's got to be a lot of hours put in day to day worrying about that And because you're focusing on that so much, you're not seeing the bigger picture where you're headed from it. You're not, and again, like I've said before, you're not seeing where you've just come from. You know, you've come so far, and people then just think, well, this ain't working, and then just give it up.
No such thing as an overnight success. You know, like Usain Bolt, one of the fastest runners in the world, world record holder. One of his quotes was, I'm going to butcher it, something like, I worked 20 years to run 9 minutes.
Yeah. Because
he runs 100 metres in 9 seconds.
Yeah.
So he worked all those years for 10 minutes of his life.
Yeah.
And it's just like, when you look at it like that, you're thinking, fucking hell. No, you think it's an overnight success. And he's not, by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen like that.
And what he's doing is easy, because when I get new trainers at Christmas, I can run right fast.
Exactly. Yeah. So. You're up and down road like with white Nikes on.
Yeah. Lights flashing. Yeah. Let me look how fast I time me.
I've done that a few times.
Well, so I always like to end my podcasts asking what advice you would give to your younger self.
Oh, crikey.
Everybody reacts that way as well.
Oh, jeez, man. I've got a few things, I guess. A couple of things then. I would say start investing.
Yeah.
Is an important one for one side of my life. And the other one is to understand that things get better, and that I guess my biggest life lesson was, from a young age, you've got to start taking responsibility for everything in your life. Because everything is your problem.
Yeah.
And there's only you who can solve it. And I know that's weird to say to a youngster, but I think the earlier you learn that in life, whether it's somebody else pissing you off, it's your problem.
Yeah, the world doesn't owe you a living, unfortunately.
Exactly. No, it's how you respond to everything. You've got that control. Once you've got that control, nothing will ever affect you again. Well, much less in life. That's a big lesson, you know. And I'd go back and give myself a few life lessons, I think. But definitely start buying a property.
Oh, well, it's been awesome catching up.
It's been amazing. I loved it.
Yeah.
Some great subjects we touched on as well.
Yeah, I feel like
done 10 rounds with Mike.
if we'd not pulled ourselves back in certain areas, we probably would have been here for a good fair few hours.
Yeah, definitely.
But maybe at some point when you've got some time, we'll revisit and elaborate on some of these things. I'm sure there'll be some new stuff coming along as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for the invite.
Good
Loved
to see
it.
you.
Yeah, same to you.
Good luck with everything. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you.